The stars had never promised peace. Humanity had once believed the darkness between worlds was empty. They were wrong. Beyond every moon, behind every dying sun, something waited. Ancient machines drifted through forgotten systems. Silent worlds transmitted signals no living mind could understand. Entire civilizations disappeared without leaving a single grave. And sometimes, in the deepest hours of night, distant observatories detected voices coming from places where no human being had ever traveled. For centuries, those signals were ignored. Then came the night of the Black Aurora. Above the colony world of Veyra, the sky turned completely black. Not dark, black. The stars disappeared one by one until the entire heavens looked like an endless ocean of ink. Across the planet, millions of people stopped what they were doing and stared upward. Then the voice came. It was not loud. It did not need to be. Every communication system on Veyra carried the same message. The door is open. Captain Elias Varen heard it inside the command chamber of the Orbital Defense Station. He froze. Around him, officers stared at their consoles. "What was that?" someone whispered. Elias looked through the enormous observation window. The planet below was covered by storms. Lightning crawled across the continents, while thousands of civilian ships attempted to reach orbit. Then something appeared beyond the moon. At first, it looked like a shadow. Then the shadow moved. A massive structure emerged from the darkness. It was larger than any ship Elias had ever seen. Its surface was covered in enormous geometric markings, glowing faintly beneath layers of black metal. No engines burned, no weapons fired. It simply appeared, as if space itself had opened to allow it through. "Identify it," Elias ordered. The sensors returned nothing. No heat signature. Life signs. None. Energy output? The technician stared at the screen. "Captain, the object is absorbing energy from surrounding space." Elias slowly turned. "What do you mean?" The technician swallowed. "The stars around it are getting darker." Before Elias could answer, every alarm on the station activated. Thousands of objects had appeared around Veyra, small at first, then hundreds, then thousands. Ships, ancient ships. Their designs were completely different from anything humanity had ever built. Some resembled enormous blades. Others looked like skeletal creatures made from metal. They surrounded the planet without firing a single shot. The voice returned. "The door is open." Then another voice answered. This one was human. "Then close it." Elias turned sharply. The voice had come from his private command channel. "Who are you?" A woman appeared on the screen. She wore an old military uniform covered with dust and scars. "My name is Commander Marisol." Elias recognized the name. Everyone did. Marisol had disappeared 30 years earlier while leading the first expedition beyond the outer veil. Her ship had vanished without explanation. Official records declared her dead. Yet here she was, alive. "You're supposed to be dead," Elias said. Mara gave a tired smile. "I was..." The connection flickered. "What happened to you?" Mara looked toward something behind the camera. "We found the place where the stars go when they disappear." Silence filled the command chamber. Elias stared at her. "That makes no sense." "It will." Mara leaned closer. "Listen carefully. The object approaching Veyra is an invasion fleet." "Then what is it?" "A prison." Elias looked at the enormous structure outside. "For what?" Mara's expression changed. "For something that has been waiting longer than our species has existed." The transmission ended. Elias immediately ordered every defense platform to activate. Veyra had 12 orbital defense rings, 87 missile platforms, and 3 ancient planetary shields. Against the approaching fleet, it was almost nothing, but humanity had survived worse. At least, that was what Elias told himself. The first attack came without warning. A thin beam of white light crossed the darkness. One defense station disappeared. There was no explosion, no debris, nothing. It simply ceased to exist. Another beam followed. Then another. Elias watched the defense network collapse. Return fire. Thousands of weapons launched from orbit. Missiles streaked toward the unknown fleet. For a moment, it seemed they might hit. then space bent. Every missile changed direction simultaneously. Some returned toward Veyra. Others simply vanished. The planetary shield activated seconds before impact. The sky erupted with fire. Cities lost power. Communication towers collapsed. Across the planet, people ran into shelters while the strange fleet continued its silent advance. Elias watched helplessly. Then his tactical officer shouted, "Captain, we're receiving another transmission." From Mara? No. The screen activated. There was no face, only darkness, and a single line of text. "You have been seen." Elias felt something cold move through him. Then the stars returned. For exactly 3 seconds. Every star in the galaxy seemed brighter than ever. Then they vanished again. All of them. The entire universe became black. Elias understood. The darkness was not spreading across the sky. It was spreading toward them. He turned to his crew. "Evacuate the station." The officer stared at him. "Where?" Elias looked at Veyra. "Anywhere." The station began to shake. Something had arrived. Not outside. Inside. Lights exploded across the corridors. Security doors opened and closed without commands. Machines activated by themselves. Ancient symbols appeared across computer screens. Elias drew his sidearm. The command chamber doors slowly opened. There was nothing outside. Then he heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming from the darkness. His officers raised their weapons. A figure emerged. It looked human. Almost. It wore armor covered in symbols that seemed to move when viewed directly. Its face was hidden behind a smooth black mask. It stopped several meters away. Then it spoke. "You are not the first Guardians." Elias raised his weapon. "Who are you?" The figure answered. "The last." A pulse of energy passed through the station. Everyone collapsed except Elias. The figure walked closer. "You opened the door." "We didn't open anything." "You did." "When?" The figure pointed toward Veyra. "Every time your species sent a signal into the darkness." Elias remembered. The old deep space transmissions. Humanity had spent centuries broadcasting messages into the universe. Mathematics, music, images, coordinates, questions. They had believed they were announcing their existence. They had actually been knocking. The figure continued. "The universe is not empty, Captain." Elias lowered his weapon slightly. "What is beyond the stars?" The figure turned toward the window. Things that remember the beginning. Outside, the enormous prison ship opened. A sphere emerged from its center. It was completely black. No light reflected from its surface. The moment it appeared, Veyra's oceans began to rise. Mountains cracked. The planet's magnetic field collapsed. Elias stared in horror. "What is that?" The figure answered. "The hunger." The black sphere expanded. The fleet surrounding Veyra immediately retreated. Even the ancient ships were afraid. The sphere touched the planet's atmosphere. Every communication system on Veyra activated simultaneously. Millions of speakers repeated the same words. "We remember you." Elias looked at the figure. "You said you're the last Guardian." "Yes." "Then stop it." The figure remained silent. "Can you?" "Yes." "Then why aren't you?" "Because I need your help." Elias almost laughed. "You destroy our defenses, invade our station, and now you ask for help? You misunderstand." The figure removed its mask. Underneath was a human face, older than any human should have been. "Mara Sol." Elias stepped backward. "No." Mara looked at him. "I told you. I was dead. You've been inside that prison. For 30 years. What happened?" "We discovered the truth." She pointed toward the black sphere. "That thing isn't coming here." Elias stared at her. "Then what is happening?" Mara whispered. "It is waking up." The station alarm screamed again. Veyra's planetary shield failed. The black sphere descended. Mara grabbed Elias by the shoulder. "We have 11 minutes." "Until what?" "Until the hunger remembers how to breathe. And then..." She looked toward the planet. "Every world within this region will become silent." Elias understood. Veyra was not the target. It was the first meal. He activated the emergency fleet channel. Every surviving ship receive his message. This is Captain Elias Varen. All civilian vessels are to abandon Veyra immediately. A voice responded, Captain, there are millions still on the surface. I know. We can't evacuate them all. I know. Then what do we do? Elias looked at Mara. She pointed toward the ancient prison ship. There is one chance. Elias gave the order. Prepare every ship for a final operation. The surviving fleet launched, not toward the enemy, toward the prison. Thousands of ships moved through the darkness. The ancient fleet reacted. For the first time, it attacked. Space became a storm of light. Human ships dodged between enormous alien vessels. Some were destroyed. Others pushed forward. Elias commanded from the lead cruiser. Mara stood beside him. You've done this before. Elias said, Many times. How did you survive? I didn't. Elias looked at her. Mara smiled sadly. The person who entered that prison 30 years ago is gone. She pointed toward the approaching sphere. What you're seeing is what came back. The fleet reached the prison. Mara entered its coordinates. A hidden chamber opened. Inside was a mechanism larger than a planet. Elias stared at it. What is that? The lock. And the key? Mara looked at him. You. Elias frowned. Why me? Because your family built the first transmitter. He remembered his grandfather, a scientist, one of the first humans to send a signal beyond the outer veil. Elias understood. My family opened the door. Yes. And now I close it. Mara nodded. But the lock requires a living consciousness. Elias stared at the mechanism. You mean a sacrifice? Yes. The bridge became silent. Elias looked at the thousands of ships outside. Millions of civilians were still escaping. The black sphere was almost touching the planet. He thought about all the people below. Children, families, workers, strangers, people who would never know his name. He stepped toward the mechanism. Mara grabbed his arm. You don't have to. Yes. You'll disappear. I know. You'll never return. Elias looked back at her. Neither did you. Mara said nothing. Elias entered the chamber. The mechanism activated. Ancient symbols surrounded him. A voice filled his mind. Why do you defend them? Elias closed his eyes. Because they're alive. They will create war. Yes. They will destroy worlds. Yes. They will betray each other. Yes. Then why save them? Elias opened his eyes. Because they can change. The voice became louder. They always say that. Elias looked toward Veyra. The planet was burning beneath the black sphere. But this time I'll believe them. The mechanism activated. A wave of light erupted from the prison. Across the battlefield, every ship stopped. The black sphere stopped moving. Then cracks appeared across its surface. For the first time, something came from inside. A sound, not a roar, not a scream. A whisper, we will return. The prison collapsed inward. The ancient fleet disappeared. The black sphere shattered into billions of fragments. Then every fragment became a star. One by one, the darkness vanished. The stars returned. Veyra survived. Barely. Millions escaped. Cities were damaged. Entire continents were scarred. But humanity remained. The surviving fleet searched the ruins of the prison. They found no trace of Elias. No body. No ship. Nothing. Mara stood alone in the command chamber of the fleet. An officer approached. Commander? Mara turned. We detected something. What? The officer pointed toward the stars. A signal. Weak. Distant. Impossible. Mara walked to the console. The signal repeated. 3 words. The door remains. Mara closed her eyes. She understood immediately. The prison had been destroyed, but the darkness had not. Somewhere beyond the stars, something was still watching. Humanity had survived the first encounter, but survival was not victory, because the universe had finally learned humanity's name, and humanity had learned something far more terrifying. The stars were never empty. They were watching, waiting, remembering. Years later, children on Veyra would ask their parents why the night skies sometimes flickered. They would be told it was nothing, a natural phenomenon, a reflection, a distant storm. But the older survivors knew the truth. Every time the stars flickered, another signal was being received. Every time the darkness moved, something was listening. And sometimes, when the night was completely silent, radios across the planet would activate without warning. No music, no static, only a voice, the same voice that had spoken on the night of the Black Aurora. The door is open. Then, beneath it, another voice would answer, a human voice, the voice of Captain Elias Varen. Then keep it closed. And somewhere beyond the stars, something would laugh, because the universe had no peace. It had only distance, and distance was never enough to keep the darkness away.